It's the surface warfare, air warfare, surface warfare, air warfare. MC Mungu Abeme, coming at you with this father's rights presentation and communication. I'm grateful for everyone who I reached out to, who were receptive to the assistance that I need from the people in ensuring that the child protective courts are behaving responsibly, that they make the correct ruling in the custody of my son. They've been suppressive, and it's just been an outright kidnapping in collusion with the DCFS since the situation occurred. It's a targeted situation. You know, they have in my algorithms that the people, you know, they're not going to be receptive if you convey yourself as a victim, and definitely that's not what the situation is, even though it's an attack. The end conclusion is not going to be a situation where I'm a victim. When you consider what I've been able to accomplish with my fiance, with the International Black Forum, with the institute that we've established during this tumultuous period on Earth, with the shutdowns and so forth, and the intent of creating crime to disrupt a successful, booming economy that I was on the forefront of predicting would be in our best interest in voting with the 45 administration. When you talk about the affirmations of free life records since 2004, with my honorable service aboard the USS Bataan and the fleet, I could talk about affirmations all day long and how they're going to continue to manifest in fruition with the blessing of our Creator. But this is something that I'm not going to run away from. This is something I'm going to continuously fight for and be victorious with. Obviously, for the reunification with my sons. And this is a situation that we had a victorious motion as we planned on July the 6th. It was a hard fought, as I said, a hard fought victory for that motion. The judge, he had such zeal against doing the right thing in establishing the reunification. He had such zeal against it. The prosecution, Castaneda, he had a change of heart, it appears, and his zeal and his continued zeal in doing the wrong thing and keeping my son away from me and not acknowledging the information that he had leading up from conception all the way up to the incident that occurred, that there was interest. There was willful interest, there was willing acknowledgement, there was suppression of due process in communicating with me with the incident when my son was probably targeted. You know, I warned her that she'll be targeted. And, you know, we discussed courting, we discussed family development, we discussed initiatives. All of this has been communicated to the state's attorney to show that there was joint custody up to the point where the incident occurred. And that instead of reaching out to me with due process when the incident occurred that involved the child protection, they completely suppressed that obligation. And we also have information that's been provided that these cabal lawyers who you pay don't do their job. For instance, the incident occurred March the 13th, 2019. They didn't inform me of the incident until March the 19th, the day before the court, March 19th or March 20th. I think it was March 20th actually. And they didn't contact me until then, March 20th, the day before the court date. And even then, I was able to acquire representation. And we also had another court date on March the 26th where my representation was present and didn't represent who I was, didn't acknowledge that there was willful acknowledgement of me as the father, which had to be determined on March the 13th. They knew there was willing acknowledgement and didn't reach out to me. You had all the other fathers mentioned in their case assessment report, which was 74 pages long. They didn't mention me until like the 70th pages, which is consistent with the suppression. It was consistent with the suppression because they knew that I would be the father who would have the interest in getting my son so that I can continue with the raising that was occurring, that they have the information demonstrating. Okay, and so this suppression then placed my son in multiple households where there were situations where you should have services. They like to throw up services, these punitive probationary services that they like to try to punish me with, as though I'm not an honorably discharged sailor with no criminal record, gainfully employed as a tradesman, electrician, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and yet they didn't reach out to me. They didn't reach out to that type of father. They placed them in other households that's going to be demonstrated with the court, where there were a need for services with their significant others who my son was living. There should have been services. And yet there's no service requirement for them, but they like to always bring this up to me as though I'm somehow insubordinate or something, as though I should have to be subordinate to anything. I should have been given my son, and we should have been able to continue our loving relationship that they have demonstrated. They have the records that shows was in existence. Okay, and so the attorney who I have is attempting to suppress that. He did a horrible job with the representation on the 6th. Horrible job. He's continuing to do a horrible job. As I look at the notes with everything that I shared to him, I shared everything with him that I'm communicating with you. The courts had everything that I'm sharing with this new attorney, who the judge is placed on the case, and he has a unwillingness to present it in a way that would be in our interest. He talks about the exhibits, for instance, 1 through 5, covering the time period before the case came into the system. All right. Obviously, that's of importance. He doesn't seem to want this to be seen as an importance. He's saying it's irrelevant to show that I was in my life, my son's life, with an honorable, positive presence since his conception. He thinks that's irrelevant. He said I say it shows interest. You're supposed to see that it shows interest, and you're supposed to present the merits of that interest. He doesn't have a will towards that. Okay. He says in one of these exhibits, 12 through 19 are the videos with me and my son. And it says, well, I'm trying to deal with the agency. You see, that's what he wants to discourage me. They want you to feel defeated and feel as though you don't have any chance of winning. Okay, even though we won off of this motion, he wasn't even trying to prepare for it. Okay, until I started the mobilization and canvassing to protest in front of the Child Protection Court building there on the Hamilton. Now all of a sudden he has an interest to interrupt his 4th of July celebrations to call me on July the 4th, 2 days before the court date. No interest all the way up until then, until I started my protest mobilizations that weekend. Now let's call him on the 4th now. Okay? No presentations of all the arguments that I gave to him. Only presentation, only ones who wanted my exhibits presented was the state, who I had been told about these exhibits way back in July of 2019. He argued against all of those in the first trial, but now he wants them admitted. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's good that you want those exhibits presented to show my interest and continue development of my child's welfare. It's important that you do that. You should want to do the right thing for what's in the interest of my son. And so this is going to be a continuous situation. We'll see what occurs Friday, on Wednesday the 27th, when we're going to be cross-examining the DCFS caseworker who has been suppressive of my rights from the jump street, and continue to do it in multiple ways that I'll be communicating about and following communications. We're going to be cross-examining them. This cross-examination is going to demonstrate how they've been suppressive of the visitations. They suppressed the due process from the conception. There was a diligence report of the fathers. All other fathers, it was done immediately, but it wasn't done on me because they didn't want to acknowledge who I was. And as I said on that, with the attorneys who I hired, we had a March 26th hearing where I had my representation present, and yet still on March the 29th of 2019, you have an affidavit when they're placing public notices all in a newspaper for a Stephen King. They ain't just made up. They think my case is something to mock, to place a famous horror author for the notice in public in the public publications okay, for a search for the Father, as I said, as though they didn't know that there was willing acknowledgement of my existence the day the incident occurred. Okay, they try to ignore it so then they can require all of these probationary tactics and services that, again, I shouldn't have been forced to, shouldn't even have to consider. Okay, parenting or domestic violence. I have no criminal record. Okay, if that's not required for all these people who they placed them with, it shouldn't have been required for me. They should have immediately gave me my son, and as I said, we continued our harmonious development. Okay, so they're kidnapping, and they're not going to succeed. And I need you people to assist with holding them accountable. I need the people to assist with holding them accountable in that regard, so that we can continue our works that's honorable. As I said, during this shutdown, this attack on humanity, we've established an institution just off of my paycheck alone, where we've had graduates, we've had a successful campaign and election of a mandate in Kampala, where all of these entertainers all of a sudden has interest now in Kampala, Uganda. You have the Empire, Terrence Howard, and all these guys. They have interest in the area all of a sudden where my Kampala dollar has an elected mandate. Okay, no false pretense, elected deeds. Okay, collective mandate of services. Okay, and so this is why they have an interest in targeting and distracting and attempting to suppress our services. And so it becomes at that point a collective obligation of the people to ensure that they are not successful in such evil acts. Okay, they want these the attorney who I have as well as his suppressive acts. When I point out to him that, hey, these services shouldn't be required, he say, oh, they are. If they are, I'm pretty sure you have precedent of other fathers where the significant other has been in an incident, and if the father's record is impeccable as mine is, they immediately get their child. How do you know that? The court's closed. You see, they hide behind, as Judge Judy said, they hide behind the closed court to do their evil crimes and torts. Is the quote of the Honorable Judge Judy. He hate when I bring it up. He say, what's the relevance of that? The relevance is they're criminals. They're criminals, and they have their spies, even in listening distance, to laugh at the accusations. They have the spies and laughing in constant spy mode of tracking with these phones to be around when I make these statements, to laugh in the background. That's how evil and corrupt they are. That's how evil and corrupt they are. That's what you need to know, people. And so they're going to be dealt with. They're going to be dealt with, hopefully, with honorable, hopefully, but with their own will, as the state's attorney's doing now, as he's doing now, by allowing these exhibits of truth to be presented. Okay, and we're going to continue to hold them accountable until they do the right thing.